No, thank you. Sleepy. Come back in an hour. Need sleepy. Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligione. It's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be part of your morning, and of course, we're glad to have you be part of ours. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant. You see I'm donning the shirt today. If you want to get one, drop me an email, and I'll hook you up with the price and availability and all that stuff. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Drool over the food, and then hop in the car and drive to Sal's place in St. Simons Island, Georgia. Or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. And if you're going to get some pizza to go, make sure you say hello to the beautiful waitresses and servers they got at Sal's. And, of course, my man Max. Yep, my man Max. Boy, can he flip and make a pie. Almost as good as Sal himself. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. Want a free copy? No problem. I'll hook you up with it. Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com. Click on the JKJ Boxing Magazine cover, which is located on the right-hand side. And today's show is being brought to you in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can literally get a copy of it right now by visiting barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Find out why we got a 5-star rating across the board. What, you want a signed copy? Don't worry about that. Just visit our website, billycboxing.com, and click on the book club section and follow the directions. And speaking of book club section, check out the other books. Get yourself a copy of those as well. We only put books that I have read and support up on the Billy C. Boxing book club section of the website. And Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. Remember, if you don't have a copy, get yourself one or two, because it's not just for boxing people. It's not. Yeah, it's a great boxing story, but it's a part of boxing history. It's a part of American history, and it's a part of Black American history. Find out why I'm so passionate about getting the record straight about Tom Molyneux. This guy was screwed during his life, and he's still being screwed today, all because of the color of his skin. Help me right the ship, buy the book, read what I'm talking about, and then help me get Tom Molyneux his rightful place in history. Today's main topic is, we all had to suffer through what was known as Andre Ward against Alexander Brand this past weekend. And Lord knows, not only did we suffer, but HBO is getting slammed in social media and in the press for allowing and approving such a horrific fight. But now as we move forward, my question of the day is, Andre Ward against Sergey Kovalev, or should I say Sergey Kovalev against Andre Ward, how do you see the fight going? I mean, here we got two guys that were on a collision course ever since Andre Ward got back into boxing, so to speak. And, HBO put their neck on the line to kind of make this fight happen in the fall and deal with two not so great fights leading up to it. Although I feel that Kovalev fought a much more relevant fighter in Isaac Chilimba versus Andre Ward, picking the easy way, as a lot of fighters of today do. But how do you see that fight going? I know it's a long way off. Kovalev against Ward. How do you see it going? Joining me right now, Sal Rocky Senecola. How do you see it going, Sal?
Hey, how you doing, Billy?
Hey, I'm doing okay. It's just another day in paradise for me, my man.
It's going to be a good showdown nonetheless, even though both their fights, including Kovalev, was less than spectacular. I do feel that you were correct in saying that Chilumba was a better opponent for Kovalev than we saw Brand, who was not even average at best against Ward. And I will tell you this, Ward, we discussed, maybe thinks he's a puncher. He couldn't do anything to put this guy away unless he just wanted to carry him for 12 rounds, which I thought maybe he did. The other thing is this, if Ward thinks he can punch and goes at Kovalev, Kovalev I think is going to have some big surprise and good solid punches to counter with. I think it's going to be a great fight. I have all the respect for Ward. However, I could see maybe Kovalev landing some good heavy shots inside and maybe pulling a big upset.
I listen to me. I'm already picking Kovalev. I've went out on a limb and have already chosen Kovalev to win the fight. I like Andre Ward. I don't like his diva attitude, and somewhere along the line, this guy thinks he's bigger than he really is. It's sad because he's so talented.
He is.
There's no question about that. But the safety first attitude today among fighters, really ruins it. And although we talk about this all the time, Sal. I'm not the guy taking the punches, and I understand that. And you know what? I respect a fighter who is looking out for his own well-being. He wants to, play it safe. He wants to make as much money for the least amount of risk. I get it, man. I totally get it. And it's not just in boxing. Other sports do the same thing. Baseball players hold out for the biggest contracts they can get, and football players the same. But at the end of the day, at some point in time, when you choose to take that route, when you're gifted enough to be an exceptional athlete, a professional athlete, at least here in the United States, if you're at that level, what comes with it is there, in my opinion anyway, Sal, what comes along with that is a certain, I don't know what word I should use, maybe like you owe it to the sport in which you're playing.
It's an inherent risk, and you do, you pay homage, you owe it to the sport. Like I was saying yesterday with the trainers of yesterday, that would show me something that would make a light bulb ignite, and then I'd thank them for it because I got it. They said, do me a favor, just pass it on. When I thanked them, they said, just pass it on to the next generation of fighters. Yeah, I knew what they meant. Now I know. Now I see. I know what they meant.
Well, for in boxing, obviously we'll focus on boxing. In boxing, you get a guy like Andre Ward who's talented, and you made a statement and you reiterated it today that there was a possibility that Andre Ward carried Alexander Brand. Well, or he just can't crack an egg, right? Or he just can't crack an egg
because he's safety first.
Well, and we talked about this yesterday, and I've said it before, and actually you and I briefly discussed it off air this morning. But he delivers his punches, and I'm talking about Andre Ward, with a lot more bad intentions, so to speak. I mean, he's in there, and if you go back and review some of his previous fights, especially when he was on the top of the game in the super middleweight division, by far the best out there. He fought a different style. I think he's trying, and that's the thing that I do give Andre Ward credit for. I think he's trying to be more entertaining, and he wants to be exciting because, I'm not the only one that has knocked his lack of excitement. But at the end of the day, if you can't do it, you can't do it. And, I'm just afraid that Andre Ward against Sergey Kovalev is going to end up being anticlimactic, similar to when Pacquiao fought, what's his name?
Yeah, that was a very anticlimactic fight. And as we knew, Billy, I go through the whole gamut with thoughts about fighting today and things. And let's say this is a new generation, a new crop of fighters. Let's just say where some of them are looking at the results of, the ring wars that like Ali had, Frazier had, Ernie Shavers had, that the ring wars that the Quarry brothers had. They're both gone. There are definite inherent dangers when you become a professional fighter and you lead with your chin, or you make yourself vulnerable to take more punishment than you really should be able to take. So let's say with this new brand of fighters, new breed of fighters today, that are passionate. I'm just being a devil's advocate. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get in this fight game, but I'm going to outbox everybody and be as pretty and do what I can do and do what I want to do. Hit and not get hit. And let's play a game of chess. Let's look at it this way. I'm going to go in, get out, go in, get out, and box and move and be elusive. I'm just being a devil's advocate. I'm just saying, is it possible that some of these fighters are looking at boxing to get in there and try to take the least amount of damage or punches as possible? I don't know.
I think you're 100% right. I think that they are doing that, Sal. And you look at these, back in the day, and before you fought, when and I'm sure you felt this way what I'm about to say, but when you start looking at previous fights as a kid and you're looking at these great fights like you mentioned, Ali Frazier type fights, or you go back to when Ali was Cassius Clay and he beat Sonny Liston, who was considered unbeatable at the time. And you see these types of fights, and as a young fighter, you say, I want to be like that. I want to be, I want to be better than Ali. I want to be better than Sugar Ray Leonard or Tommy Hearns or Marvin Hagler. And you want to respect what they've done, but you want to come out better. That's the way the mentality was. What can I do to prove that I'm better than the next guy? Yeah, okay, I'm a world champion in the lightweight division, but let me show that I'm even better. I'm going to move up and challenge somebody in the welterweight division. That's how good I am. That was the attitude, right? Today's attitude seems to be exactly what you said. Yeah, I think I can make some money. I'm pretty gifted. I'm talented, but I don't want to get hit. I don't want to take any chances. And what the problem isn't that safety first with the fighters. The problem is the fans have accepted it. And I think, and I wasn't going to mention this, but, normally, and I got some emails to read. Normally, I read emails and you and I comment on them and stuff based on the email content. And there's always a lot of comments out there on social media, through our Twitter account, Facebook, and YouTube accounts, etc. And there was a post, and I look at them occasionally, and there was a post that says something along the lines of, hey, Billy C., I'm with you with how you feel about boxing today, but the boxing fans are going nowhere. They're going nowhere, so relax, And I'm saying to myself, this guy, and you and I briefly talked about it earlier, this guy must be similar in age to us or close to it within a decade or so. Maybe he's in his 40s, maybe he's in his 50s or 60s, I don't know. But I think he's looking at it through our eyes, saying that because we're diehard boxing fans. I'm never going to stop being a boxing fan. I bitch and moan and complain about the fights and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, no one watches more boxing than me. No one follows boxing closer than me. And I'm never going to change. Boxing could turn into tiddlywinks and I'm still going to follow it. That's the truth. I agree with this person. But that's not who I was talking about, Sal. I was talking about the young generation of fans, the fans that have drank the Kool-Aid, the fans that have bought into this, run and hide and move and 1-2, that's sweet science. They're the ones that are going to lose interest because at least we have those fights of yesteryear embedded in our mind, which hooked us and set that hook and made us lifelong boxing fans. I can't see, at least through my eyes, I can't see how somebody would stay involved and be a dedicated fan when they're watching fighters that are thinking safety first and producing snooze fest fights. I just don't see it.
Well, and that's just it. You and I can't see it because we've been exposed and we grew up with the Roberto Durans, with the fighters that would put it on the line. And take a shot, but dish it out a shot, and and fought with cuts, fought with thumbs in the eyes, fought through any perseverance because they wanted to see their arm raised in the end as a victor. And those are all the passionate reasons why you and I still love the sport of boxing, because those fights will still happen, but so far and few in between. But today's generation, it's almost like what you don't know, you don't miss. And maybe today's young generation, they are the guy that fought Pacquiao. They're kind of fan that would like to see more of a ballerina, or more of a, hey, hit and avoid the punches, slip and move. Maybe that's being cultivated in this young group today, and that's what's going to excite them, as seeing a fighter move around the ring, be elusive, and just jab when he can, throw a right hand, get in, get out. I don't know, Billy. I'm just being critical.
All right, but wait.
Devil's advocate.
Hold that thought, because I want to just throw this in. Yeah, they've brainwashed these fans into believing that that's the sweet science. But that's my point. If you're a young fan, and I know it's hard to look at it through their eyes, because we look at it through ours. But if you're a young fan and you're watching this, and maybe for a couple of years you say to yourself, "Oh yeah, oh this is great, oh yeah, yeah." How can that keep your support? I mean, at some point, don't you think it's going to get old and somebody's going to say, you know what, I don't know if I could stay awake for 12 rounds of this stick and move, 1-2, and no engaging and all of this? I mean, that's my question. I mean, do you really think that they're going to stick around long term, like the diehards of us?
Well, like I said, if they don't know. But you give a dog Purina dog chow, and he's in heaven. He's eating it every day, 3 times a day, twice a day. I'm not plugging Purina. I'm just telling you.
I know. Hey, what are you doing? What, they pay you under the table?
I plug so many places.
I know. Hey, you would think. No wonder why. Hey, Sal.
I give advertisement. This is free advertisement.
I tell you, I know you're always yelling at me for not trying to get other sponsors, and here you are giving it away for free. Why should they pay when you're giving it away for free, you bastard?
Let's say Brand X Dog Chow.
Okay, that's even better. That's even better.
All right, Brand X Dog Chow. That dog's in dog heaven. He doesn't care. But then all of a sudden, somebody slips him a steak. Oh, wow. Hey, man, this is real food. Now I know what I'm missing. And he doesn't get it again. Well, if today's fans are fed the dog chow, they're not going to miss the steak unless they see it. And that's what I'm talking about. Maybe they're cultivated. They're accepting, as you had often reminded us. And I think you're right, that they're looking for the dog chow. And, once in a while, they're going to taste the steak. And they might look for a steak, but the bottom line is, that's the analogy I just wanted to make. I don't know if it worked, but
No, hey, listen, they got a piece of steak with the Carl Frampton and Leo Santa Cruz fight. They got a piece of steak with the Thurman Porter fight. I mean, but even that, I mean, you hope that they watch those fights, and at some point, they say, wait a minute, this is what I want to see, and demand it. But there's so many people out there that are critical of us, specifically, that say, "Oh, you guys don't know boxing. That's the sweet science is what, is what you got to do. Hit and not get hit." The problem is that they're ignorant to the fact of they're not finishing the sentence. The sweet science is hit and not get hit. However, you got to stay in position to inflict damage on your opponent, not run across the ring. I'm sorry.
I know.
But let's read some emails.
Billy, let me just say one thing. Do you know if they never got fed steak, do you know what it'd be?
If what? The dog or the fighters?
If the fans or the dog never tasted the steak.
It would be the sizzle without the what? What would it be?
You'd get a mistake.
Yeah, a mistake. Hey,
okay, forget about it. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Go on, read the email.
You better have a sip of coffee, you bastard. Hey, listen, just before I read some email, my man Coach is giving us a late-breaking news. Apparently, former IBF heavyweight champion Charles Martin was shot last night. Apparently a drive-by. And he ended up getting hit with a bullet in his forearm, had surgery, and he's okay now. But imagine that, I mean, geez, terrible.
I'm reading it now in the chat room.
Yeah,
I can't believe it. It was
terrible.
in L.A. Wow, shot from a passing car
Te-
chasing them. Wow. Okay.
Terrible world we live in today. But let's get some
Sure.
emails out the way. This one's from Jesse. He says, "Hey Billy C, have you seen the Olympic boxing? I think it's better with no headgear. But are you surprised at some of the pro boxers that are struggling and losing in the Olympics? Are there any
No.
boxers to look out for in the Olympics? How do you see the pro versus amateur scenarios?" Like I've said, unfortunately, I don't watch as much amateur boxing as I should, unless we're doing a broadcast of. We've done several Golden Gloves finals through LDL TV, so I've gotten to see that, and I absolutely love it. It's just that with my schedule and trying to keep up on pro boxing, I don't watch as much as I should, even though I should be watching the Olympics. So the answer is I really haven't seen much. But as far as the pro boxers struggling, that doesn't surprise me, Sal. And the reason is,
I called it.
well, the reason is that it's a different style. I mean, we're always talking about the transition from the amateurs to the pros. Well, once you make that transition from the amateurs to the pros, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to try to go back to the amateur style. I think Hasim Nadam proved it. I mean, this guy's a quality fighter in the pros, and he gets bumped out in the first round of the Olympics. So, I think it's tough. I think that there is room for pros in the Olympics, but in his case, does it devalue him? It's tough. So. It's tough. But
you know what, Billy? We talked about this when it first rumored that that's what's going to happen, and I said you're probably not going to see any world champion put everything on the line. It was like that analogy I said: why take a chance on a lesser of opponent? Why change why put your legacy on the line for a gold medal? I mean, it's great, sure, it means a lot, but I think it's going to hurt some of these pros going in if they don't perform well, because their marketability is going to be, hey, you got beat by an amateur. But the amateur might be full of himself, turning pro before he's ready, and you never know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
One.
Well, now that the headgear is removed, that's
good.
Maybe
I didn't fight with headgear.
Yeah, well, I mean, they put headgear after you, but I'm glad they took that off. I think at least USA Boxing is making a conscious effort to be more, definitely better and more, competable. I don't know. I mean, they need to compete a little better and on the world stage, and maybe this is a step. But anyway, Jesse has a couple more thoughts. He says, Billy, what's your thoughts on Jose Pissarro passing away? Is he a Hall of Famer? It's sad to hear that Jose passed away. He was 80 years old. Is he a Hall of Famer? The guy had an outstanding record, and he was a world champion. Unfortunately, he fought and he had somebody die after his fight, and mentally he just couldn't move on after that. Ended up losing to a very journeyman type fighter, and retired in his early 20s or mid 20s. So I don't even know, despite having so many fights, I don't even know if we ever saw the best of Jose. It's tough. I always look at Hall of Fame and being inducted into the Hall of Fame, not only for your accomplishments inside the ring, but what did you accomplish for the sport? I think that goes, has to be factored into it. He did, create a lot of, buzz during his era, but I don't think that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he should or if he shouldn't, to be honest with you. I'm going to stay neutral on that. He says, Billy, would you be at the fights on Friday at the Turning Stone? I think Flores versus Ryan should be good. The winner probably moves on to bigger and better things. No, I will not be up at the Turning Stone on Friday for several reasons, and I won't get into them. He says, Billy, what's your thoughts on Trevor McCumbie's progression? Is he ready to step up against guys like Don George, Lisi Sierra, Craig Baker, Michael Seals, or Richard Barriai, or Medzid Bekatirmov? Yeah, I do think that he's ready. I love Jesse, I love your opinion of possibly moving up against Don George. I think Don George would be the guy if I worked with McCumbie. That would be the guy I would choose, or even a Craig Baker. I like those two fights especially. So thanks for the email. We got another one here, Sal. This one's from your buddy Joel that's waiting for his T-shirt. Did you get that out yet? Did you get his T-shirt
work
out?
on that this
You better get that T-shirt
He gave
out.
me the size and address. I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, don't let Joel get on your case, man. He's once he latches on, he's like a pit bull. They never let go.
I hope I have the ones left for him in his size. If not, we got to do a new match.
Joel says, "Hey Billy C, what's your thoughts on the recently announced cruiserweight fight between WBC champ Tony Bellew and BJ Flores?" He says, "I think Bellew is avoiding better opposition. He should be fighting Marius Briedis, who's ranked number 2, behind Glowacki by the computer. Will Bellew ever fight anyone of name or fight middle of the ring cruiserweights for the rest of his reign? I would really like to see Briedis get a title shot against Bellew or Glowacki, but I think Glowacki has to fight Usyk first in September. But maybe Briedis gets a winner of a fight versus Bellew. But I think Bellew would avoid the Latvian. I enjoy the European cruiserweight since that's where the division is mostly. I wish it would be something of more interest here in the U.S." First of all, I agree with Joel. I think that the cruiserweight division is a great division, Sal, and I think that it should be more popular here in the States. I mean, let's face it, it's big guys. You're talking about 200-pound weight limit. I don't know why the U.S. fans have never opened their arms to it. I think it's great, and I wish they did, because I think I would love to see more cruiserweight fights here in the States. What do you think?
It's funny because I remember I was fighting at the time when they first introduced the cruiserweight division, and it had a funny response from fighters at first, because sure, it was an extra division we can now look at, and it was the happy medium. Light heavyweights up to 175, then you were heavyweight. Boom. That's a big gap from 175 to 260, 240, 230. And I think it was a fair call. I think it was a good call, but it never really took off and sustained a level of interest in the United States. I could be wrong. Maybe we just haven't had the right fighters represent the cruiserweight division. That might be it too.
Well, it's the money. I think what happens is, and you're right, and think of it this way too, to add to your point about the weight discrepancy between like a light heavyweight and a heavyweight, especially today's heavyweights, this difference, between light heavyweight and cruiserweight max. So your 176 pounder is a cruiserweight, and 199.9 pound fighter is a cruiserweight. So that's roughly that's roughly a 24 or 25 pound swing. So that's a big discrepancy in its own right. But I think the main reason is greed again. The fighters, and it's not the fighters' fault, because they should be making as much money as they can, but the powers that be don't pay the cruiserweights the way they should. So a fighter that's around that 200-pound mark, eats a couple of cheeseburgers and gets to be 208, 210, and now boom, they're a heavyweight and they're making more money. So I think that's more of the issue. And as far as Joel's first question, what do I think of the fight between Tony Bellew and BJ Flores? Well, BJ Flores to me is a great ringside analyst. I've never liked him as a fighter. He himself has been a guy that's cherry-picked and everything else, and I think that Tony Bellew is following the path that Sal and I were discussing earlier about fighters who look for the easiest way to get a win and pound their chest. And great fighters do great things. Great fighters challenge themselves and win those challenges. They're great fighters, in my opinion. They're Hall of Famers. Tony Bellew, if he really wanted to make a splash, he'd be trying to get a guy like Glowacki. And let's remember, Glowacki busted onto the scene only because he beat Marco Captain Huck, who was pretty much controlling the division at that time. So yeah, you want to make a splash in the cruiserweight division, you go after the guy who beat the guy, and Glowacki would be the fighter that Tony Bellew should go after, and it's actually Glowacki, I guess is how they pronounce it, not Wacky. But I got one more email, and this is a good one. I glanced over this, and I don't even know if my man Coach wanted this to be read on air or not. But it's so relative to what we're talking about here, Sal, and I think you're going to love this one because I certainly do. And this is from Coach. He's in the chat room right now. He says, "Hey, Billy C, reflecting on your coverage of fighters playing it safe, I was doing some research for an article and uncovered a wild fact. Did you know?" Oh, no, sorry. Did you know it took TMZ's best ever Floyd Mayweather 16 years to a massive record of 44-0? He says, not bad, right? No big deal when you consider it's a record Harry Greb exceeded in 1 year. The Pittsburgh Windmill fought and won a mind-boggling 45 times in 1919, including victories over Willie Meehan, Soldier Bartfield, Hall of Famers like Billy Miskey, Battling Levinsky twice, Leo Huck twice, and Mike Gibbons, to name a few. There were then, with no cherry picking, Greb, a true tradesman, went on to administer his style of the sweet science, compiling a record of 107 wins, 8 losses with 3 draws, 48 coming by knockouts, winning and battling such greats like Jimmy Delaney 3 times, Hall of Famers Kid Norfolk twice, Tiger Flowers 3 times, Gene Tunney 4 times, beating Tommy Gibbons twice, Tommy Loughran 5 times, Gunboat Smith, Jimmy Slattery, Mickey Walker, and Maxie Rosenblum. Greb versus Mayweather is like comparing apples and oranges when you consider the difference. Here's another great point. When you consider the difference in gloves and weight divisions, it certainly was a different time for boxing, creating a different type of fighter and champions. I hope Thurman versus Porter and Frampton versus Santa Cruz can steer us back to those days. Great email from Coach.
Great email, Coach. Wow.
As usual, Coach is always coming up with some great stuff. And this is the little tidbits on the history of the sport, Sal, that these young fans have to understand. They've done such a good job. They, meaning the powers that be, with making his accomplishment of 49-0 being so great. And like Coach points out, in 16 years to get to be 44-0, when you put it in perspective with fighters of yesteryear. Now, granted, he also, said in not so many words, don't get Coach wrong. Harry Greb, among those 45 times in 1919, didn't fight all world beaters, but neither did Floyd. Floyd picked a lot of guys that had a resume way beyond their primes, and that's what the Floyd fans always throw. Well, he beat this world champion and that former champion and everything else. But they leave out the part that the guy was 100 years old. He was spent. He hadn't fought in a few years. All of those things. So great email by Coach. What do you think?
Yeah, that was fantastic, and that is definitely one topic we can look at and talk about, discuss intelligently, and also debate with others.
Hey, I don't know if you've caught this on TV, but I've noticed that the sneaker, I call them sneakers, but there's
Flyers.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Converse All-Stars were back in the day. Now people wear them again. But, Sugar Ray Leonard is in a commercial, and I saw some other, aging athletes all donning Skechers. Which here I am ripping a page out of Sal Rocky Senecola's page by promoting a product for free. But I don't know. Do you wear Skechers, old man?
Wear who? No,
Yeah.
I don't wear enough. Forget about it. I don't wear that. No, I run in my New Balance shoes. I got a wide foot. That's the only sneaker I run
Would
in.
they pay you to mention their brand? You bastard.
Oh, jeez, I did it again.
Would you stop it, you bastard? Come on.
You know what? Let's call New Balance. I'll call it the NB.
Yeah. You bastard. You keep doing
I'm a
it.
walking.
You're walking. Let's
sign.
give it away. You're giving T-shirts away for free. I bet you if somebody called you and said, "Hey, give us a dozen free pizzas," you'd go into a heart attack. Come on.
Oh, hey.
Come on now. Come on. Hey, we're talking about Ward Kovalev. I'm officially picking Kovalev. I know it's a long way off, but the fight that's going to happen before that, which I'm really interested in, and I want to look at the two fights, Ward Kovalev, and of course Triple G Kell Brook fight. Do you see these fights going in a similar pattern, Sal, or do you see one being more entertaining than the other, and why?
I see the Kovalev Ward fight. I think it's going to be an entertaining fight. I think it's going to be a good fight because if you have one fighter that's going to look to cut the ring off and to look to, it's going to be a good conflict of styles. I think we see in Ward a boxer puncher. I think we see in Kovalev more of a boxer, more of a puncher. And so that should yield a very good style if both fighters are going to utilize the ring in a fashion and Kovalev trying to cut off the ring. I think it's going to be a good game, good fight. The Triple G, let me tell you something. When I first heard this fight, again, I'm a big Triple G fan because he does all the right things. He's a solid, well-rounded, all about winning kind of fighter, and he's a winner. But when I look at Kell Brook and I see what he's willing to do, he's got to know something that only he in his heart really feels he can do. And he is a very capable, very skillful, very good boxer puncher. So, you know what? Let's see. I think that's going to be a hell of a fight, too. Those are the two main fights I want to see even more so. I think the Triple G Kell Brook fight is going to be one great fight to watch, even more so than the Kovalev Ward.
Yeah, I think that what's going to make these fights exciting or not is the ability of the power puncher, so to speak, even though both Triple G and Kovalev can box. But I think that the burden will be on those two fighters to disrupt a mover, sticking in jab type of game plan. And that's what I foresee both Ward and Kell Brook employing for the fights. Yeah. I think that they're both going to try to use their boxing ability and footwork and just, they don't care about excitement. They're going to try to win the fight on the cards and get out of dodge. And I think the burden is actually going to fall on Triple G and Kovalev to disrupt the apple cart, to show their ring generalship. And this is why I believe that the Triple G and Brook fight will be entertaining and will live up to the expectation because Triple G, he's the best at ring generalship. He's the best at cutting the ring off and putting his fight the way he wants the fight to go in that bout. I mean, he's the kind of guy that enforces or makes his opponents fight his fight, not the other way around. And I think Kovalev he falls a little short. So if Ward can move, I think that you'll see Kovalev following him around the ring. And then the burden will be on Ward. Can he, land enough punches and get out of harm's way to win on the scorecard? They're both going to be interesting. I think Kell Brook against Triple G is going to be more of leaning towards, I think it's going to live up to the expectations versus Ward and Kovalev. And then we have the Saul Canelo Alvarez against whoever he's fighting and Liam Smith. And I hear no talk about that. And I think that pay-per-view is going to fizzle right out. What do you think?
I'll tell you, and I'm a big fan of Canelo Alvarez. And I was, and I still am. But I lost a little bit of the allure and a little bit of the shine for Canelo Alvarez because I thought he did dog and dodge Triple G, but tried to. And I wouldn't have taken the stand that I am taking if I guess Canelo Alvarez didn't try to pee on my leg and tell me it's rain. I wouldn't be so disappointed because he tried to make it sound like he wanted that fight with Triple G. It just couldn't be put together. Don't say one thing and do another. If you wanted that fight with Triple G, it would have been made.
And listen, not only do I agree with you 100%.
I like when you say that.
But for him to get behind the mic when Triple G is like right behind him in the first row and say, "Us Mexicans don't F around, I'll fight him right now," and everybody's cheering and he's pounding his chest, and then next thing you know, here, WBC, you can have your stinking belt. I don't want to fight Triple G right now. You know, I mean, you know, and then he picked, out of all the fighters he picks, you know, he goes after Liam Smith. You know, I mean, if anything, I think I would have accepted, even though I don't think Billy Joe Saunders is all that great as a middleweight champion, I would have accepted that fight more than Liam Smith. Liam Smith is a fighter that's in a weight class below. I know that Saul Canelo Alvarez has been crying that, you know, he's not, you know, he's a 154-pound fighter. He can fight at 155. I think that the reason why he does that is because he can lose 20 pounds for a weigh-in. It's going to be interesting. And by the way, it's not a WBC fight, so there's no dehydrate issue. You know, you can't, or rehydrate. There's no rehydrate issue. So it's all going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. But those are the three big fights we got coming down the pike. The Canelo, Liam Smith, which I know is not going to do well, pay-per-view. I don't care how many fans Canelo has. And Triple G Brook happening in September. Then in November, Ward and Kovalev. And then, of course, Manny Pacquiao will be fighting late fall as well. So in November, I think, too. So, you know, we do have some good fights coming up. It's all a matter of how they pan out. Are they going to be exciting or not?
Exactly. And, you know, I'd like to talk to our good friend John and maybe put a show on at Sal's for maybe one or two of these three fights that we're mentioning. At least the Kell Brook Triple G, if we could do that September 10th, that'd be great.
Well, you better get on it because it's a month away.
Better get on it. I know.
And you better
we're a month away.
Yeah, you better talk to John about that. I know he's got some ideas on that. So, but
it'd be a great time. You know why? Because we're just getting out of our busy seasons after Labor Day, and I think we could really do a good showcase for that entire weekend. See what we could do.
Well,
and,
give John
get the think tank together. You, John, and I, and think about some things going forward.
Well, give him a shout and see if you can make it happen.
Shout.
You know, I'm always ready. But hey, some college football news I wanted to talk about a little bit.
Let's go.
You know, my team, which happens to be the national champions, Alabama Crimson Tide, they're starting the season, according to the coaches poll, they're starting the season right now ranked at number 1, which I believe is rightly so. But one thing that I'm a little excited about is a lot of the experts have them are predicting that they will repeat as national champions, despite having what is termed throughout the college football world as a weak quarterback situation. So the team is so stacked in every other position except quarterback. The experts still believe that they're going to not only finish ranked number 1, but they're going to take that national championship title again. I'm looking forward to it, but I know what you guys are looking forward to there in St. Simons, and that's the Dogs, the Bulldogs. And you know, I got some good news for you on the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, let's hear it, man. Well, we need some good news. I could talk about it later.
Well, when we first were given a preview of the Georgia Bulldogs season and some of the commitments they got from outstanding high school players to play for Georgia. At that time, they were ranked, I believe, down in the 20s, 23 or 24th in the AP and coaches polls. But as of this morning, with the coaches poll, based on the recruiting that they've done and based on the projected starting lineups, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, the Dogs are now being slated as the season starts at number 16, Sal, which is pretty respectable. And considering that they kick off the season on Saturday, September 3rd on ESPN against North Carolina, if they can get by them, their schedule is pretty favorable for the first 5 games. Like I mentioned, North Carolina. Then they play Nicholls State. Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, which traditionally are tough games for Georgia.
Sure.
But if they get past them, they're going to find themselves undefeated at 5-0 going into their sixth game against a huge rivalry in South Carolina. And should they get by South Carolina and start the season 6-0, the Georgia Bulldogs are going to be in the discussion for the college football playoff series that early in the season. I think, and they play Auburn at the end of the year, and they play Georgia Tech, their cross-state rivals, as their last game of the season. So, I mean, I think the Georgia Bulldogs...
You get me excited just discussing this.
Well, the thing is, I think the Georgia Bulldogs are in a really good place right now if they can win those first 5 games. You know, if they can go into that South Carolina game 5-0, they'll have some support, and that's a rivalry game. It's always tough between South Carolina Gamecocks and the Georgia Bulldogs. So I listen, for all the fans that love the Dogs, I think they're going to be real excited for this year's season for the Georgia Bulldogs, man.
Absolutely. I think that's terrific, and I know my staff as well as our guests are going to love that news and going to look to see him. You know, we'll have that TV on. You know, we only have 2 channels that we show: WSAL, Sal TV, and Georgia Bulldogs TV.
That's why the staff is always begging me to douse them with gasoline and light a match if they have to watch Sal TV one more time. But
easy.
Anyway, hey, you know, it's a real slow day in the sport, and I just wanted to touch base. I know we'll get a better chance to talk about this fight later in the week, but Antonio Margarito against Ramon Alvarez, the brother of Canelo Alvarez.
Wow.
They're fighting this weekend. And Antonio Margarito making his second fight in his comeback after missing 4 or 5 years. I think there's a lot of pressure on Antonio Margarito. I think that there's a lot of people that dislike him for the loaded gloves scenario against Sugar Shane Mosley, or attempted loaded gloves, and he was never quite the same. You could argue that he was never the same after Manny Pacquiao beat him. But, you know, Antonio Margarito, I don't know if you followed him much, Sal, and he has been in hiatus, you know, over the last few years as you've resurrected your interest in the sport. But do you see this fight as a turning point for Margarito? Does this fight decide whether Margarito continues his comeback or not?
For him, it may, because Alvarez, even though he's lesser of the Alvarez brothers as far as probably quality of fighting ability, he's still got to prove himself. But I think this could be a make or break scenario for Margarito, and you know, I think he'll look at it and he'll see how he fares in this fight, and he'll see if he wants to go on. I mean, you're plagued with some stigmas throughout your career or so, and you have some setbacks. You know, it's when you really are a fighter. You know, you can put them in the back pocket and say, it's not going to bother me. I'm going on, and I'm going to evolve and do my best and try to be a champ again, or try to be a champ. And you know, let's see what he's built of, what he's made of, and what the makeup is, and we'll see how he does against Alvarez.
You know, the thing is, I think that Antonio Margarito wants to continue his career. I think he's in need. Rumor has it that he went through a messy divorce and kind of pissed. Yeah, I know you do. And kind of pissed away his earnings and stuff, but or got it taken away, I should say. But so he's in a tough situation where he kind of has to continue to move forward. He did get a dose of reality in his last fight. He was demanding a lot more money than he ended up getting paid, and I'm not sure if there's much interest in Antonio Margarito at this point. I think he not only has to beat Ramon Alvarez, but he's got to beat him decisively, even stop him. You know, and Ramon Alvarez is a tough journeyman type fighter. And coaches in the chat room right now predicting that Margarito will win and then set up a fight with Canelo Alvarez.
That's a good scenario.
But then that again prolongs the fight everybody wants to see. You know, and you know, Canelo although he, is always preaching that, he wants to fight the best and he wants to, show everybody he's the best and et cetera, he's certainly following the path of least resistance at this stage of the game.
Yes, I definitely see what your point is here. Can you imagine if, when Canelo wins his fight, but let's say he wants to take on the winner of the Triple G Kell Brook fight. And I'll tell you what, that could be a good scenario if we can make that happen, if the fans will demand it, and if the fighters will look to do it. And that would be a neat way to shape things in that weight class.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that if I'm Triple G, I say screw you to Canelo. And I go after guys like Daniel Jacobs. I go after guys like Billy Joe Saunders. Guys that are relevant in the middleweight division, and basically, he, as far as I'm concerned, he owns the middleweight division right now. But the one loose end is Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs obviously has chosen to avoid Triple G, and he picked a rematch with Sergio Mora. Which I guess we can't really look beyond, because Mora did hurt Daniel Jacobs, dropped him in the fight, and Daniel Jacobs of course dropped Mora, and then Mora fractured his ankle, and the fight was over. So we never really got to see how that fight would have unwound. So I don't mind that rematch, but I definitely would like to see Daniel Jacobs, who is similar to Deontay Wilder, pounding his chest saying he's the best in the division, fight who I think is the best in the division, and that's Triple G. As far as Canelo, forget about him. Forget about him.
Hey,
and,
he had his chance.
And do you think a guy like Floyd, what's his name, would ever grow the hair on his balls to step in the ring with Triple G and shut guys like me up? Never, right?
But pal, I'll tell you what, I will bet you right now. No, that'll never happen.
Never.
I would love to see it, and like we were saying, even if Mayweather, signs that contract, I would have a new respect for him.
Listen, if I've said this all along, if Floyd, what's his name, grew the hairs on his balls to step in the ring with Triple G, and by the way, what's his name and his father and anyone else part of that team have all come out in public and said that would be an easy. They refer to a fight with Triple G as an easy fight for Floyd. Yeah, no, that's what they've said. They've said it would be an easy fight for Floyd. Now you make statements like that, then you run like a scared little bitch, because that's what he is. But the truth of the matter is, if he ever did step in the ring with Triple G, I tell you this right now, and I kid you not, and I tell anyone else that's listening, I would gain so much more respect for Floyd Mayweather, the fighter. I could never gain respect for him as the human being, because I can't respect anyone that beats up women, especially in front of their kids. But I would gain so much respect for him as a fighter, even if he didn't come out on top. I think that in my mind, he finishes higher in my all-time great rankings when he's all said and done, for real, retired, than if he avoids Triple G and picks another cupcake to get to that 50-0. It's those kinds of things, Sal, that make fighters great. Fights that people don't give you a chance in, and you come out and win. Just like Sugar Ray Leonard did to Marvin Hagler. And I wouldn't even argue if they rob Triple G. If Triple G wins and they end up giving the fight to Floyd or make it some crazy decision, I would still give him credit for stepping in the ring. Because I don't think that Floyd could, number one, handle the power of Triple G, and number two, I think Triple G's ring generalship would totally mess up Floyd, and Floyd would not be able to dictate the fight. That's my opinion.
Well, I think what you're saying is right there, will hold true. Triple G has the ring generalship, but he has the experience. Most of these fighters, and to his credit, Mayweather could have been almost, I want to say, cerebral in his fight plan, because he will take 2 or 3 rounds to figure out a fighter. to know what he's all about, like a little cat and mouse. And then he makes the fighter fight his style of fight. He will adapt. So on some level, I do give Mayweather the credit to be a safety first, box and not get hit kind of fighter. I know you don't like me saying that, but I give him credit for doing that. But the bottom line is for giving what the fans deserve and seeing a good fight and not just running or so. That's another issue. But Triple G would definitely give him more pressure, more pounding, and I think that definitely Mayweather would really find himself lifting himself off the canvas.
I doubt he would get up. He might try.
Well, maybe not. I mean, I think if Triple G landed a shot, which he will in 12 rounds, he will. And I think once he really does, it'll come really fast, the unfolding of Mayweather. And you'll see a different fighter.
And not only that, the corner would become unfolded. You see, the thing about Mayweather, first of all, I would love to see him knocked out on the canvas. I'd call me crazy, but I would love to see it. But the truth of the matter is that he has never proven that he could come back. Like if Floyd Mayweather got dropped by Triple G and then got up and continued to fight, or if he sustained a vicious cut and continued to fight, or if he had to modify his game plan halfway through the fight and continue the fight and do well, that's what makes a great fighter.
That's what makes great.
That's what makes a great. He's never done that. And the thing is that he always makes sure that all the ducks are lined up in a row so he doesn't have to do that. To me, that's the definition and proving that you're an all-time great when you come back from some type of adversity, whether it be a knockdown, a cut, some kind of wrench in the mix. That's what great fighters do. They overcome it, and we've never seen him overcome anything. And that's been my hang-up, one of my hang-ups with him. Aside from him pounding on his chest saying that he's the best and all of this stuff, because he's certainly not. And emails like we got from Coach pointing out accomplishments from fighters like Harry Greb, I think just reiterate that whole purpose that these guys were much better back in the day, or at least they took more chances. But hey, we can dream, and we could hope that the little hairs on his tiny little balls grow. But I doubt it.
I'd rather eat a steak.
Yeah, no doubt. We got the trivia question, and I've gotten a bunch of answers that were all
Stanley Ketchel.
Well, no, that was the last one. I got a different one. Listen, this question is a tough one, and I got quite a few answers yesterday that were all around the same, which are a little busy, a little easy, And we anytime Henry Haskup provides us with a trivia question, trust me, it ain't easy. All right.
I love Henry, man. He's forget about it. He's just great.
Here's the question.
His knowledge.
It's what did Ted Kid Lewis, Dave Shade, and Young Stribling all have in common? What do Ted Kid Lewis, Dave Shade, and Young Stribling all have in common? Now, the big answer that is true, but it wasn't the answer we were looking for yesterday, was that they all had over 200 fights each. All these fighters had over 200 fights each in their careers. And, the truth of the matter is, that was the answer, or close to 200 fights each. That was the majority of the answers we got yesterday. The hint is that's not the answer we're looking for. All right, that's not the answer we're looking for. But all three of them did something very similar, and it's extremely significant. And I'll give you another hint. Along the lines of what Coach was saying today about Harry Greb is kind of along the lines of this answer. No, it's not, the frequency in one specific year, but it is the frequency. And that's all I'm going to hint, okay? Because if I keep going, I'm basically going to give you the answer, and I want you guys to suffer a little bit.
Maybe they've all had over 20 fights in one significant year.
Well, that could be an answer, but I'll give you a hint. No,
it's not.
But anyway, if you're the first one to email me, Billy at
Q&A.
Talkin' Boxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. You'll win a choice of some great prizes. Here's the question one more time. What did Ted Kid Lewis, Dave Shade, and Young Stribling all have in common? If you're the first one to email me, and it's not that they fought over 200 fights. If you're the first one to email me this, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, that's TALKINBOXING.com, you'll win the choice of some great prizes. Slow day in boxing. Got any final thoughts today, Sal?
Well, let me tell you, Pilgrim. No, I'm just, I got to wait a month for this Triple G and Brook fight, and I think it's going to be a great one. And we could talk about it as we lead up and see what we're going to do to make it a good show. But on our end,
oh yeah,
I wish. I think that we hit some neat topics, where the state of boxing is, and the fans head, the young fans today, and I think we're going to have some comments about that in the future.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, it's in anything in life, it's you give the fans or give the people what they want. And, quite honestly, we could be the exception here. The fan base could be saying that, hey, Sal and Billy C, you guys don't know what you're talking about. We like to watch guys 1-2 and run across the ring and hardly engage. We like that. And if that's the case, then more power to you. And I'm totally wrong. And it is what it is. But for me, when I look at sports today and I see the numbers and where the fans are flocking and what they like, specifically MMA, UFC type fights. These are action fights that the fans come out for. They're usually short-lived, high intense and high action, short-lived fights. To me, that is snagging and hooking a generation, a couple of generations now, to keep following that sport. And whereas boxing is leaving that excitement level, and now you try to convince a fan base that, I'm sorry, but this is boxing. That's the way it is. And that's not entirely true. Because if you go back and watch and learn about these great fighters that we talk about, you'll see that a lot of those fights are action-packed. And the one simple thing I always say, Sal, is, you go to look at a guy like Floyd, what's his name, and close your eyes and think of a great fight he was in, and that's what you get. Dead air. Well, because you can't think of it. Exactly. I mean, that's what it is. It's, crickets, baby. I mean, the fight that everyone will remember will be the Manny Pacquiao fight because it was so anticlimactic. But when you watch a Floyd Mayweather fight, they're just not in your memory banks. You can mention, Jack Dempsey, Muhammad Ali, Rocky Marciano, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns. The list goes on and on and on. You mention their name, and you can close your eyes, and several fights, Roberto Duran, several fights that you remember about these fighters pop into your mind. Oh, man, the Duran against Kenny Buchanan, or Tommy Hearns against Sugar Ray Leonard, or Leonard against Hearns, or, Hagler against Hearns. All these fights come in your mind, and you get nothing with Floyd, and I think that that's really, that's the proof in the pudding, man. If somebody is going to try and make an argument to me that he had exciting fights, I welcome it. I welcome it, because I would love to hear somebody's thoughts on why what's his name, was in exciting fights, because he never was. He'll be remembered as a guy that made a lot of money and retired undefeated, and and that's it. I mean, that's his claim to fame. And that doesn't make a great fighter, my man.
Yeah, I hear you. We should do year-end. We should recap and count how many stellar fights, or at least the fights that were on national TV or pay-per-view that really lived up to the hype. We should count how many we can recall and compare it to how many took place the year before, and graph it out. See if we can go back a few years just to see.
Slow it down, Sal. You're really creating a project for us. I can't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday. You know, I mean, come on. You know, but anyway, hey, listen, don't forget about tomorrow. We will be doing our Blast from the Past, which I think it was going to be on Marvin Hart, but I think we changed it. It's going to be on, who is it going to be on? It's going to be on somebody, trust me. And like it always is. And we also scheduled to have Larry Hazard, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey boxing commissioner, on the line as well. And, of course, Sal will be with us. And we will be not doing a show on Thursday, but Friday we will be back and open up the phone line. So just giving you guys a heads up, we will be here tomorrow. We are taking Thursday off, but we will be back on Friday with Fan Driven Friday. So I'm looking forward to that, Sal, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow, my man.
Me too, buddy. I enjoyed today's show, and I'll look forward to tomorrow.
So with that,
tomorrow.
Okay, maybe it's time to hit the mute button. But with that, make sure all you guys tune in tomorrow morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.